It's one of my favorite times of year, even though there's a lot of work that comes with it being fall. Look at all the sunflowers. It's potato harvesting day, so we wanted to leave them in a little bit longer, but the forecast is not cooperating with us. There's a bunch of rain and then freezing temperatures. So time to yard these bad sallies out. We pulled a few out the other evening, but today's the big push to get it all done. So here we go. This is going to be the last year that potatoes are in this section of the garden. That won't be sunflowers anymore next year. That'll be switched over to something else. Hopefully a raspberry patch, but to the left, it's kind of hard to tell because it's kind of overtaken by the weeds. That'll be the new potato patch next year, but I'm super excited about what we've accomplished in the last few years on this patch because we have very hard clay soil, and with a lot of amending over the last few years of compost, and we've got a couple loads of manure from the farmer that does our field and hays it for us, and we see lots of activity every time I dig in this patch. We have nice big worms, and that makes me pretty excited because that means that our soil is getting better as time goes on. I haven't been worried about weeding out the dandelions so much over the last few years because they have great long tap roots to break up the soil. So hopefully we'll pull a few of these out and maybe make some dandelion root coffee out of it or tea and get another harvest of these guys as well as our potatoes. So here's an example of what I mean. Pull up that. Look at what we find. Nice big worms nestled in their potato crop. These ones are German Butterballs, and it's pretty exciting. So these here are a new variety to me for growing. Last year I grew the all blue, and I actually kept some seed potatoes, so I'm excited to dig them up. But I planted these side by side with them because these are the Russian blue, and I believe, if I remember right from my reading, they have a tendency to get scabby, and as you can tell, well, they're covered in scabs, most of them. A few of them aren't too bad, but they're nice big size, and they've been really prolific producers. Just a lot of scab. So I'm interested to see what the all blue does because they're supposed to be a little more scab resistant. And here is our all blue potatoes. So these are the ones that I kept from last year, or some of them are. The seed potatoes I saved from last year had the least amount of scab on them. To correct what I said earlier, I had mentioned that the all blues are less scab resistant. They're not really. They're all blue and Russian blue are all susceptible to scab. As you can see, still susceptible to scab. They're just, I find, a little less scabby than the Russian blues that I planted. You can actually see a bit of the purple coloring in these versus the Russian blues. So here's on the left is a all blue. This is a Russian blue. So you can see there's still quite a bit of scab on the all blue. However, when you stick it next to this, and these are kind of average representations of both potatoes. So I think it's safe to say that next year I probably won't be planting the Russian blues, but it was kind of a neat unscientific experiment to do to see the difference. Just like that, Potato Harvest 2019 is complete. Got my hands to prove it. Got a few, oh, what do we have there? About 4 or 5 big bags of potatoes, and once I get a chance to sort through them all, I'll do a bit of a more in-depth video on the varieties that we planted this year, how they work for us, whether I plant them next year, that sort of thing. Most of them are keepers, some of them not super stoked about what we ended up with, but that's the way she goes. So there you have it. End of potato harvest 2019.